These are some more times that Hell's Kitchen contestants broke the rules. And this contestant hid a burnt dish so he could use it for later. But could he? Jeff Lapov was a contestant in Season 1 who ranked in 10th place. If you asked me to describe Jeff, I would say that he was an awful chef who had absolutely no collaborative skills. During his time on Hell's Kitchen, the only thing he did was complain. And when things didn't go in his favor, he simply quit. On the second day, after a horrible first night, Chef Ramsay wanted a good service. As both teams got ready with their first order, much to Chef Ramsay's dismay, Mary Ellen Daniels struggled to get the Caesar salads ready. But eventually, she managed to get it accepted. Meanwhile, in the Red Kitchen, Jeffrey Dubry got his refire accepted. But when Wendy Liu brought her first risotto to the pass, it was undercooked. An hour and a half into the dinner service, the Red team sent out all the appetizers and started out with their entrees. But Jeff, who is at the garnish station, had trouble focusing because of the excruciating pain from a kidney stone. As a result, he failed to send the vegetables to the pass and also forgot about the spinach. And this made Chef Ramsay frustrated. When Jeff finally got his act together and eventually sent up the spinach, it turned out to be charred. Chef Ramsay was pissed that he was still trying to mix up the spinach when even a monkey could already tell that it was burnt. But Jeff, instead of just accepting his mistake, started to make lame excuses.
Keeping that on the other side.
Oh, really?
Yes, Chef.
Throw the lot away, start again, yeah?
All Jeff had to do was start working on a new batch, but instead, he tried to act smart. He thought he could keep the spinach underneath the counter and use it after Chef Ramsay got busy with the other contestants. How could he find out, right? But what Jeff didn't realize was that Chef Ramsay was still watching him and caught him in the act.
Now, that means you won't use it? You won't sneak it in?
No, not at all, Chef.
At the very same time, the Blue Kitchen had managed to pick up the pace and served more entrees than the Red team. However, after losing the previous challenge, the Blue team was forced to work without an air conditioner. And the heat really got to them. Anyway, back in the Red Kitchen, Jeffrey brought lamb and Wellingtons to the pass. While the lamb was cooked perfectly, the Wellingtons weren't, which disappointed Ramsay. But when Jeffrey started a fire at his station and walked up to Chef Ramsay to complain about it, Ramsay grew even more furious with them. What was Chef Ramsay supposed to do? Call the fire brigade? 2 hours into the dinner service, the Red team was sluggish. Up until then, they had only served 8 main courses to their customers. Later, when a customer walked up to the famous chef complaining about the long wait times, Chef Ramsay decided to chew him out. And I can tell you this, the customer was destroyed.
Are you that arrogant? You haven't got a clue what's going on behind me?
The Red team's slow pace wasn't only ticking Chef Ramsay off, but also the customers. And to make things even worse, Jeffrey announced that he needed 12 minutes on the Wellingtons. Now, why would he need 12 whole minutes on the Wellingtons? When Chef Ramsay asked him this, Jeffrey simply said that he had no idea. I mean, what's wrong with him? But what he did next shocked everyone in the Red team.
You're useless, you know that?
I am. Goodbye.
Goodbye. That's it.
Soon after that, Jeffrey walked out of the kitchen, but when he saw Elsie Ramos' face, he returned to his station. Chef Ramsay then berated him and asked him to never desert his station again. Moments later, another customer who had been waiting for almost 3 hours showed up, and Chef Ramsay wasn't happy. He lashed out and sent them right back to their table. But how long should customers wait for their food? When it was well past 3 hours of waiting, customers started to leave. Now, that's not a good sign. But something happened that made Chef Ramsay shut both kitchens down for the night.
You can't.
What? Don't tell me I can't. And you are less educated than me, so don't get in my face, buddy.
Yeah, one of the customers ordered pizza from another restaurant. And that's simply not acceptable. This service was doomed. Chef Ramsay was annoyed beyond measure. Not only with the contestants, but also with the customers. He was so done.
Shut it down. Everything off. Yes? Stoves off.
But this next contestant, who was in a hurry to send his dishes to the pass, picked up the wrong plate to be served. Jeremy Madden was a contestant from season 11 who ranked in 16th place. Jeremy was one of the worst chefs in the history of Hell's Kitchen. He didn't know how to cook, was useless, and literally destroyed the blue team because of his mistakes. On the 5th day, Ramsay introduced the breakfast challenge and both teams got started with their first ticket. In the blue kitchen, while the team agreed to not rush, Ray Alongi dropped some eggs on the counter and blamed the pans for it. What? Just like me, Chef Ramsay couldn't believe his ears.
Can you wake up a little bit?
In the red kitchen, however, Cindy Stanimirov was struggling with the eggs since they were getting stuck to the pan. Okay, why didn't she just use some oil? Anyway, back in the blue kitchen, Jeremy's lack of communication infuriated Chef Ramsay. Then, when he confessed about not hearing the order, it enraged Chef Ramsay even more.
Wasn't able to hear it, Chef.
Then, Anthony Rodriguez repeated the time that he needed to make the omelet. But still, Jeremy asked how much time he would need before walking with the croissant. The blue team quickly pulled him back, and Anthony repeated the time again. But Jeremy, being dumb, asked for the time yet again. Then Barrett Bayer just told him to make more croissants. But instead of that, Jeremy just stood in front of his station with a croissant in his hand and did absolutely nothing. And this infuriated Chef Ramsay so much that he couldn't help but mimic Jeremy. When Jeremy finally brought the croissant to the pass, the smoked salmon was missing. This guy was totally asking for trouble. He then went back and asked Dan Ryan if he had a plate that he could walk with. Dan refused and said that he was almost done, but Jeremy walked with it anyway. Should he have waited for Dan? Oh yeah, he should have. Because you won't believe what he did. Once all the plates were lined up for the pass, Chef Ramsay noticed something strange in one of them. Upon further inspection, he realized that Jeremy had actually brought the sample plate that was made more than an hour ago. How could he? Did he even know that it was the sample plate? Chef Ramsay immediately chewed him out.
Jeremy, you killed someone with that!
Meanwhile, in the red kitchen, Janelle Witt and Cindy served food at a good pace. But Nedra sent out some Eggs Benedict that had soggy bread. An annoyed Chef Ramsay asked her why she was using that when there was fresh toasted bread right behind her. But Nedra didn't give a satisfactory answer. When Chef Ramsay asked her again, she simply said that she didn't know the bread was soggy. What a lame excuse. Chef Ramsay was stunned.
I didn't see it when it went down, Chef, but I got another one coming.
But that doesn't mean the blue kitchen was any better. When Ray sent his scrambled eggs to the pass, Chef Ramsay got furious when he noticed that it lacked seasoning. However, it wasn't just about the eggs. On the next ticket, Jacqueline Baldessari messed up the first pancake and Ramsay was annoyed. While Nedra stepped in to help her out, in the blue kitchen, Ray bounced back and got his second attempt of scrambled eggs accepted. Finally, it looked like the team was pushing out orders at a good pace. But that was only until Jacqueline's next order of pancakes came out too dark. The only thing Chef Ramsay could do was toss them in the bin. Now, that should have been alarming enough for her to up her game, but when both teams were on their last order, Jacqueline burned another pancake. Chef Ramsay was fed up with the red team wasting so many pancakes and told them that they were out of control. The red team were the undisputed losers thanks to their disastrous performance throughout the night. However, things took a turn during the deliberations. Jacqueline and Mary were nominated for elimination. And yes, both of them made several mistakes during the service. What followed was a rather dramatic plea from both contestants. But Chef Ramsay surprised everyone by sending them both back in line. Did this mean that there wasn't going to be an elimination? Well, you're wrong. Because there was one contestant who had committed an unforgivable mistake. And there was no way he could further stay on the show. Any guesses? Well, it had to be Jeremy. His time was done on Hell's Kitchen the moment he walked up with a sample plate. But this next contestant started the competition by breaking a rule. Jonathan Plumley was a contestant from season 9 who ranked in 10th place. Jonathan was a decent cook, and even though there were times that he was incompetent, he definitely made us laugh. Sadly, Jonathan isn't with us anymore. But through his time on Hell's Kitchen, his memories will live on forever. Jonathan has to be one of the very few contestants who started his journey on the show by breaking a rule. Yep, he did. But before that, let me quickly recap the episode for you. During the Signature Dish Challenge, Carrie Keep and Will Lusberg were the first ones to go against each other. Carrie presented chicken fried ribeye with mashed potatoes and white truffle cream gravy. But Carrie made a little mistake by adding sugar to the mashed potatoes. Despite that, Carrie was confident that Chef Ramsay would love her dish. However, this is how he reacted.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
That is disgusting.
Next, it was Will's turn and he presented his heritage. Being Italian and Jewish, he made a pizza bagel which he served with sheep milk nudi. Chef Ramsay thought it was delicious and the blue team was in the lead. In the second round, Amanda Colello and Brendan Heavey faced off. Amanda presented eggplant rollatini with creamy polenta, which was praised for being seasoned well. Then Brandon served salmon with basil cream sauce, and Chef Ramsay praised the salmon for being cooked perfectly. And both of them scored a point for their teams. Jennifer Normant and Jonathan were the third set to go against each other. Jennifer presented pork with her special marinade with sweet potato mash and green beans. And Chef Ramsay praised the pork for being moist. But when Jonathan revealed his punch-drunk chicken, Chef Ramsay was shocked by its presentation.
What the is that on a plate?
Chef Ramsay could immediately tell that the pineapple he used was canned, and Jonathan boldly admitted it. He then blamed the time limit, but Chef Ramsay wasn't having any of it.
You're so full of even your eyes are brown.
Jonathan had 45 minutes, and all he came up with was canned pineapple topped on some chicken? Ramsay threatened to boot Jonathan out on the spot for serving him canned pineapple. Chef Ramsay then refused to taste his dish, and Jennifer automatically won the round. Next, it was time for Krupa Patel and Paul Niederman to present their dishes. When Krupa presented her traditional stuffed naan, Chef Ramsay was shocked by her dish. Ramsay found nothing appetizing about it and made a rather nasty comment.
It's like you've got 4 bits of on a plate, splat.
Chef Ramsay thought that the spices were bland and told Krupa that her dish was crappa. Anything could beat that one, and Paul's eggplant with crab mascarpone and ricotta was a clear winner for the blue team. In the 5th round, Jamie Gregorich and Stephen Paluba went up against each other, and Jamie presented lamb lollipops with red onion confiture. However, Chef Ramsay berated her for her overcooked lamb. Meanwhile, Stephen served his seared diver scallops over wild mushroom risotto. But his scallops were deemed too rubbery, and Chef Ramsay compared them to dinosaur toenails. Neither Stephen nor Jamie scored a point. In the 6th round, Elise Harris and Chino Chang went up against each other. Elise presented scallops and cream sauce with spinach, and they were cooked perfectly. Chino, on the other hand, presented miso sauce on hanger steak with parsnip puree, which was deemed too strong. Elise won the round for the red team, tying the score at 3. In the 7th round, Monterey Keys and Natalie Blake faced off, and both did great. Monterey's sea bass over chickpea ragout was fantastic, and Natalie's lamb with balsamic glaze and mash were also cooked perfectly. In the 8th round, Elizabeth Bianchi and Tommy Stevens went up against each other, and once again, both scored a point for their teams. Later on, Gina served pan-roasted pistachio scallops with parsnip puree. They were deemed nice, but the scallops were burned on the top. Jason then presented pork tacos, which were deemed delicious, and this helped the blue team win the challenge. But this next contestant threw an already cooked chunk of meat into the oven to keep it warm. So did her trick work? Melissa Firpo was a contestant from season 3 who ranked in 7th place. In the beginning, Melissa showed that she had great potential, but she quickly went downhill. Her attitude grew worse with each service, and this reflected on her communication skills as well. On the 5th day, Chef Ramsay introduced both teams to the wedding planning challenge. Both teams had to create an appetizer, a fish entree, and a meat entree with a budget of $100 to shop for their ingredients. With a time limit of only 30 minutes for shopping, the blue team decided to avoid duck as their protein. But in the red team, Melissa suggested duck instead of lamb. Even though Jen Yamola was concerned about the time constraints, the team followed Melissa's suggestion. Now, both teams only had 1 hour to cook. Melissa took the lead and asked the red team to follow her directions. In the blue kitchen, the team was cooking at a good pace. However, in the red kitchen, when Julia Williams decided to sear her duck breast, Melissa butted in and told Julia to do something else. Melissa then insulted Bonnie Muirhead by telling Julia not to listen to her. Then, when Julia took the duck breast out of the oven to rest, Melissa placed it back in the oven to keep it warm. And this sparked some friction in the red team.
Assuming that you have a little bit of knowledge of how to cook. Otherwise, you shouldn't be here. You knew how to cook too.
With only 2 minutes left, Josh Waller overcooked the lentils, and Brad Miller told them to make it into a puree. In the red kitchen, Julia and Melissa found out that the duck breast was overcooked thanks to Melissa's dumb move. Melissa then refused to take responsibility, and because of that, an argument broke out.
I didn't make it overdone. Your job, your station.
You stuck it back in the oven. Don't try it. I took it out on time.
After the cooking was done, Chef Ramsay asked everyone if they used their time wisely. But when the red team stated that they didn't do much, Chef Ramsay was shocked. Bonnie then told Chef Ramsay about the argument, and Julia blamed Melissa for the dictatorship. Melissa argued that she couldn't do everything at once, but Chef Ramsay reminded her that he never put her in charge. The challenge was supposed to be a team effort after all. And you know what else is a team effort? Growing this channel to greater heights. And together, you and I, we can do it. While I try my best to put out amazing content for you, try your best to drop a like on the video and subscribe for more. It's free, so just do it. With that out of the way, let's see what Melissa was up to next. Finally, the judges for the evening arrived, and this time, it wasn't Chef Ramsay, but the bride and groom themselves. When it was time to serve the meat entree, Melissa tried to stop Jen from serving the duck breast. Seeing this, Chef Ramsay got pissed at her. When Jen revealed the dish, it turned out to be a duck breast with no sides, no garnishes, nothing. Just a big lump of overcooked duck breast. Chef Ramsay felt extremely embarrassed.
Right. Okay. I'm deeply embarrassed.
Since the duck breast was too rubbery to cut through, the red team's dish was disqualified, and the blue team won the challenge. After the couple left, Chef Ramsay berated the red team for their poor performance.
I don't think I've ever been so embarrassed inside this restaurant in my entire life.
So these were the times that Hell's Kitchen contestants broke the rules. Some of these rules were so basic that it baffles me why anyone would break them. Was it because of the pressure? Or the time limits? Or maybe just the presence of Chef Ramsay? If I had Chef Ramsay watching my every move as I cooked, I know for sure that I'd screw up. Would you be able to pull it off? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching, guys.